Hello, hello. Welcome to the Frame of Mind Coaching Podcast. I am Kim Ades, and I am the president of Frame of Mind Coaching. Today, I have a really interesting guest with me. Her name is Beverly Beuermann-King. Let me just tell you how we met. So I was in Edmonton, I think it was November, for a speaking engagement. I think it was even 2 speaking engagements, but anyway. And I was super pumped. I came back, I was on the flight home, and I was sitting in the wrong seat. And for whatever reason, the person who was sitting in my seat said, "Hey, you're in the wrong seat, please switch." So I went to sit in the right seat, and beside me was a cute woman who clearly did not want to talk to me at all. She did not want to have a conversation, but being who I am and being, having the personality that I have, I kind of said, "Hi, are you going home? Are you going somewhere for work? What are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm on my way home." I said, "Oh, what do you do?" She said, "I'm a speaker." And all of a sudden my ears perked up and I got super excited on the inside. And she was like, "Oh no, now I have to talk." I said, "Really? What kind of speaking do you do?" And she said, "Well, I'm a tech speaker," thinking that I would have no idea what that meant. But I am a tech speaker too. And she just had her own tech presentation for a group that I had spoken for, I don't know, a while ago, maybe a year ago or something like that. And all of a sudden, we just struck up a conversation that lasted the whole entire trip home, I think. So Beverly, welcome.
Thank you. And it's nice to see you.
Nice to see me. I think by the end of the trip, she didn't feel quite so bad about forcing herself to speak with me. But I was really, really quite excited to meet you then. And I'm super happy to have you on the podcast today. Beverly, your specialty is helping people handle stress, handle work-life balance, handle like getting themselves to a weller, a healthier place.
Absolutely. More resilient, addressing mental health issues, some physical health issues, but moving you kind of from that stressed out into being more resilient and enjoying the life that you have.
So I want to hear a little bit about it. Like, where does stress come from anyways? Like, why do some people feel so much more stressed than others given the same circumstances? Like, what's that about?
Part of that's perspective. Part of that is tools in our tool belt that we use. And I think, we experience things in different ways just based on our history. So how we interpret those really makes a difference. Some of us look at, the interruptions as being, "Oh, here we go again. I can't get my work done." Other people look at interruptions as, no big deal. They just pick it up, do whatever they need to do, and then off they go. So part of it's experience. Part of it is the type of job that you do and all the other stuff that's going on at the same time.
Do you think that some people have just a basic nature where they're not rattled as much as other people, where they have a greater capacity?
And capacity, or they've been taught and they've learned along the way. So I think, for some people, we mimic our caregivers, we mimic those people that were key in our lives. And if they went around, stomp, scream, shouting, and went, "Oh my gosh, the sky is falling," you're going to be more apt to do that as well. If you saw people who were calm, cool, collected, they got right into problem solving, things didn't fluster them, you're more likely to have taken that and made that part of your coping strategies as well.
So we're learning from our ancestors in a way.
Yeah, and it's generation after generation. It's the type of work that we do too. So it's not even so much even about parenting. It's about the workplace that you're in. I've had some people say, "I wasn't like this before I came here," or "I remember when I was at that workplace, and oh my gosh, it was so much worse, and I wasn't doing well in that environment." So the workplace wellness programs that I talk about too are really important in helping people keep on that path of resiliency.
So what do you do? Like, you have a wellness workplace program. Like, tell me a little bit about it. What do you teach people? What changes? What do they experience? What do they have to do to get weller?
To get weller. Weller's a great word, isn't it? Let's see. So one of the things that I talk about, and I think one of the things that is a bit unique, is that I have what I call the SOS principle. And for many people, when they're talking about resiliency strategies or stress management strategies, they're pulling one or two things out. But if I don't like them, so let's say somebody says, you know, yoga is the best thing that you can do for your stress. It is a great strategy, but if I hate yoga, then I'm not going to do it. It's probably going to stress me out more, and then I'm not left with any tools in my tool belt. So SOS is a three bucket approach, and you need strategies in each one of those buckets in order to do the best that you can. So the first S stands for situation, and that's what I was talking about earlier, is how do you problem solve? How do you break it down? How do you look at things? What kinds of ways do you manage that problem, from what it is to how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to put the steps together? So the first S, and many of us talk about, you know, the problem solving side as kind of key. It is key, but you have to have the other two sides too in order to be as resilient as you can through that chaos, through that challenge, through those issues, big or small, whatever it is that you're dealing with.
So that's the S.
So that's the first S. The O stands for ourselves. How do I take care of myself? And that's where yoga would come in, but it's not just about yoga. It's the O stands for, what am I going to do to keep myself healthy? So am I eating right? Am I sleeping right? You know, 62% of us say that we're not getting a good night's sleep. So making sure that we get good sleep. It's, are we exercising? And then the O is actually also about, what am I doing to take a break? So what am I doing for fun? What am I doing for balance?
Right.
What am I doing to kind of get out and away from the problem side, in order just to give my mind a break, in order to give my body a break, so that I can utilize my energy as best as I can.
So I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but what's the third S? And then we'll come back to these strategies.
Okay. So the third S is support. Who do you talk to? Who do you vent to? Who can you learn from? Who's been there? Who's done that? Who can you ask for help from? And so it's playing with your kids. It's going out on a date night. It's hanging out with your colleagues. It's spirituality. It's playing with your pets. All of those things that connect you to something else are really important, because for many of us, we're feeling isolated, we're feeling lonely, we're feeling disconnected from the world. So the more that we build that up, the more resilient we are. And research is saying that that's actually one of the biggest keys to our resiliency, is how connected are we?
So our relationships is one of the biggest elements in terms of lowering stress levels.
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
a place, a safe place, kind of to vent or to share or to express yourself.
Absolutely. And in a connected, meaningful way. So many of us are connected on social media, and that's great. There's some really good points about it. There's some downsides to social media, but there's some good sides to it. But it's also being able to have those meaningful conversations where you realize that you're not the only one that's going through this stress, or that somebody else has gone through it and you can learn from them. And one of the keys, you know, when people ask me, do we have more stress now than we did, you know, 200, 300 years ago? What's really different is not how many stressors or the sources of stress, but the fact that we're more disconnected than we used to be. We used to live with our families. We used to live, you know, 3 or 4 generations together, or communities where everybody knew each other. And if there was a challenge, a chaos, a disaster, everybody pulled together.
Right.
You knew who your neighbors were. If there was a birth in the family or a death in the family, everybody brought food, right? So now we don't know who our neighbors are. We don't know who is working in the next cubicle. We don't know the person we're sitting beside on transit. And so we feel more lonely. We feel disconnected, even though there may be hundreds of people around us.
So a greater sense of isolation. Speaking of which, the other day our neighbors came over and brought us a cake. So I've been neighbors with these particular neighbors for over 20 years. But it's the first time we got a cake. And my husband says it's because of me, not me, because of him, right? And I would agree with him. He went over and above the call of duty to help our neighbors when, you know, they didn't ask for help, but he just stepped in and helped them. And so they brought us a cake, but it took 20 years to make that happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we do. We live in a state of isolation and separation, you could say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, families can live not just hours away. Now they can live countries away, right? And so, you know, even having that core family, you know, we talk a lot more about the empty nest syndrome, because children aren't just moving into their own house down the street. They're now moving miles away, provinces away, countries away. And so that isolation is a lot more profound.
That's very, very true. I have 5 kids, and of those 5 kids, I have 2 in different cities, and 1 is in Scotland right now. So, yes, you're 100% right. I want to go back to something you said about sleep, though,
Mhm.
because I know that number one, you're a serial napper.
Absolutely.
So,
Love my naps.
what is a serial napper, and how do we take them? But really want to talk a little bit more about sleep because I think it's a big, huge issue. But tell me about serial napping first.
Well, it is a huge issue. And I just put out an infographic on sleep for the month of January, because the 3rd of January was the Festival of Sleep. But a serial napper is one who takes naps regularly, who needs their naps, who loves their naps. And that is me and me and me and me and me. I had a half an hour nap before I came on the call today. And it started
And how
because
does
I
your
had a
face look
2-part
so
day.
good?
You sleep like this. It's I had a 2-part day. I had because I'm an entrepreneur, so I had my business through the day. I was traveling, doing my workshops and going to companies and stuff. But then I would be home, and I had 2 boys in hockey, high level hockey. So that meant that we were driving 2-3 hours a night to get to the hockey arena. They would play their game. I'd wait for them to come out of the arena, and then I'd drive them home. Well, if it's 11, 12 o'clock at night, I couldn't afford to be sleepy when I was driving home. That's not
Right.
a place that I wanted to be in. So I would nap. I would split my day up into 2. I would nap before they would get home from school, and I just became really good at it. And now, if I know that I have 45 minutes, I will take 30 of that to take my nap time.
And is that enough to replenish?
No, well, 20 minutes you want to take a nap that's 20 minutes or less, or 90 minutes. So for me, I love a 90-minute nap. Like, there is nothing better than getting in my pajamas in the middle of the day, crawling into the covers, and going for a 90-minute nap.
Really? You do pajamas too?
I do pajamas.
Wow.
Pajamas. It's a bedtime routine, right? It's the same thing as what I would do at night. So I get in my pajamas, it's warm and cozy, and off I go. If I only have, like I said today, 45 minutes, I took 30 minutes, and that was because I had my 2 dogs with me who I spent some time, because I was away this morning. So I spent some time connecting with them, but I did take a 20-minute siesta in that time. So 20 minutes allows you to get rested. 90 minutes gives you a full sleep cycle, allows your body to rejuvenate, your brain to rejuvenate, your mind to calm down, and you get all the benefits of it.
So I'm going to ask you a personal question. So I'm at a stage in life where my age, let's say, is causing me to not have full night's sleeps. I wake up in hot sweats, like I have things going on, right? What do you recommend for people who go to sleep, fall asleep, but can't stay asleep? Things wake them up. Any recommendations?
So first of all, you want to minimize that as much as possible, the things that are waking you up. So if that is,
I'm saying hot sweats, bathroom trips, those kinds of things, not external things, internal things.
Internal things. So the first part is recognizing that we all wake up after 90 minutes. And that's a big realization, because a lot of the times we wake up and we look at the clock and we go, oh, it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm never going to get back to sleep. I'm going to be so tired in the morning. And so our brain starts going, and the messages start going. If you realize that you always wake up at the end of a 90 minutes, now you may not come all the way to the surface, but you always come up, and then you go back into your sleep cycle. So knowing that is a sleep cycle, you can do one of 2 things. Do you have to get up right now, or can you just flip the covers over, change position, do whatever, and then go back to sleep and go, okay, that was it? Or if you have to get up, go back, go and do the bathroom thing, and then come back and go, okay, now I'm going to go, I'm into my next sleep cycle. This is not a big deal. So the way that we message that is really important. Don't flip the lights on. Don't start thinking about what work needs to be done, and don't check the clock to see what time it is. In fact, turn your clock the other way, because your alarm clock is going to let you know what time you need to get up. And otherwise we look at it and go, oh, I've only got 30 minutes until my alarm goes off. And then you've wasted the 30 minutes. Right. So check the messages.
That's interesting. I definitely check the clock every time I wake up. And it's so true that every time I do wake up, it's not that I think I'm not going to be able to go back to sleep, but I think, man, my night, I can't ever get a good night's sleep. I actually woke up this morning thinking, if I had one wish, I just wish that I could figure out how to sleep without waking up. And But it's true, we get all caught up in our brains around the poor sleep we're having, which tends to make it even worse.
Well, on that infographic, I was laughing because, you know, people said they would give up, not in any particular order, but they're on the list was pizza, vacation. They would give up vacation days. They would give up, sex was another one on the list. All of these things that they would give up just to get good night's sleep. So sleep ranks really, really high.
Yeah.
And part of it, yeah. So just go, as opposed to getting frustrated, going, oh, you know, I remember the good old days when I used to sleep really well. This is what sleep is like now. I am going to be woken up, and that's okay because I can go right back to sleep, and it's not going to be a big deal.
And I'm going to turn my clock around tonight and see how that affects me. How's that?
And don't plug your phone in near your bed either. So plug your phone, preferably in another room. Don't use it as your alarm clock, because we get, you know, when we see things or when we check things, there's like all kinds of stuff with the blue light and the red lights and all that kind of stuff.
So let's go back to like the work world where people are stressed, where they are tired, where they are physically out of shape, where they are, you know, maybe not living or working up to their potential. How do you go into an organization and create wellness programs where it's universal for the organization as opposed to just for one person? What kinds of programs do you have in mind, and how do we roll that out in a large organization?
First, make sure that you're programming according to what the needs are. So there's no point in having a smoking cessation program if less than 1% of your company smokes. However, if you have, you know, 65% of your workforce who are parents of young kids, then certainly, you know, parenting programs and balance and concierge programs and those kinds of things that make life easier are going to be much more tailored to your particular organization. So you have to do some assessment. So assessing what are the sources of stress, as well as what are the symptoms that they're experiencing. So you want to know both of those because you want to program on how to manage the sources, but you also want to program on how to make sure that those symptoms don't become negative to the point where they're impacting the person, impacting your health benefits usage, prescription usage, and all that kind of stuff. So you have to make sure that you know what it is you're planning for first, and then design programs that are going to meet those needs. The other piece that goes with that is getting people on board. So having one person come up with this is not great. You need to have a team of people who are going to be the champions for that, especially your leadership team. You want to make sure that they're coming out because what they do speaks volumes. You know, it speaks volumes to the level down below them, and what they do speaks to the people below them. And so you want to make sure that you've got your leadership team on board as well.
So here's another question. Like from my experience, we coach a lot of like leaders, but also high potential leaders. And we find that a great deal of stress comes from their relationships. So while you spoke about the idea that having healthy relationships contributes to wellness, the opposite is true, that having unhealthy or challenging, stressful, tense relationships leads to unwellness, right?
Absolutely.
So how would you recommend that we help leaders manage their relationships more effectively?
I have a presentation called Stop Letting That Difficult Person Ruin Your Day. And it's about dealing with negative attitudes and difficult behaviors. And the first part with that is really understanding what the payoff is. So what are the behaviors? What are the things that the person is doing? Whether that's stomp, scream, and shouting, or pulling away and being quiet, or not participating, you know, trying to be like the peacock that shows people up kind of stuff, or being kind of more what I call the snake, the person who victimizes. So there's different personality types. Knowing those behaviors and then figuring out what the payoff is. Why is somebody acting that way? And then
so give me an example of payoff, just so that our listeners understand exactly what you mean. So if, let's say, there is someone who is, you know, withdrawing.
Okay.
What might the payoff be for that person?
So a person who is who's quiet, who doesn't share their ideas, who wants to stay kind of hidden, who doesn't answer questions in the middle of a meeting. One of the things that I would look at is it based on fear. And that fear sometimes is the fear of making a mistake, so the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of the future. What if they say the wrong things and it, you know, causes, you know, a disaster of whatever that disaster is.
Right.
These are the people that make mountains out of molehills, right? And so you want, with them, knowing the payoff for them is if they don't say anything, they're not taking a risk, so they can't make a mistake, so that they can't be held accountable for that.
So the payoff is safety, or
It's safety, yeah.
Perceived safety.
Perceived safety. So for you as a person addressing that, you need to say, you know, it's okay to let me know what you're thinking. It's okay to tell me what your ideas are, and do that in a very safe way. So I would say not in a big group. You don't want to address that. You want to address that one-on-one, and do it in a way that allows them to be able to think of, so what do you think about this? And try to garner their suggestions. Now, one of the things that we know about somebody acting that way is that they're used to not answering. And when they don't answer, usually we're so busy, we'll move on to the next person or the next thing. So it's just kind of reinforcing that they don't have to answer. So stay on it. You may want to get them to write it down. So it seems like you need some time to think about this. Why don't you think about it, write it down, and then we'll talk about it. But keep them into the problem solving mode. So moving from problem identification into problem solving. So here's the issue. What do you think we can do about it? How do you feel about that? And then keep working with them. Address what they think might happen. So, you know, it's okay. You're not going to get fired just because you tell me you don't agree with this, right? So trying to draw them out and bring them out that way.
So
one that's a little bit easier.
The objection.
Yeah. So one that's a bit easier is what I would call the bull, the person who stomps, screams, and shouts. And we often think that that person's wanting power, but the person who stomps, screams, and shouts isn't necessarily after power. What they're looking for is control, and either control of themselves or control of the situation. And when they feel out of control, that's when they do the stomp, scream, and shout types of behaviors. And so for us, what we need to do is look at ways that we can give them control in an acceptable manner. And we can do that just by asking, giving them choices. Do you want to do it this way, or would you like to do it that way? Do you want to talk about this? Would you like to talk about that? Do you want to talk about this here? Would you like to talk about it there? You know, so giving them choice puts them in control of the situation, and then allows you to be able to make those, give the options in a way that is acceptable for you. So
that's kind of like when your kid has a temper tantrum. That's helpful. So, so there are a couple of things that I want to bring up. So at Frame of Mind Coaching, we have an ideology in the coaching process that we call encapsulation. What is encapsulation? It's really taking a moment to understand the emotional impact of a situation or circumstance on another person. So something might happen to you, and we take a moment to really, really understand how it is that you're feeling as a result of this situation. Again, we don't necessarily have to agree with those feelings, but we're encapsulating them. We're really taking the time to say, is this how you're feeling? And is this what's going on for you? And the moment you say yes is the moment your emotions come down, right? So that encapsulation piece really helps someone feel heard and understood. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is, I heard you say before, when someone is withdrawing, maybe it's a good idea to ask them to write down their ideas. So one of the things that we do is we get our clients to journal in an online journal. We get them to write down their thoughts and feelings. What do you think about that as a wellness tool?
Journaling is absolutely a great wellness tool, and both for problem solving and also for just for putting things in a compartment and getting them away and getting them off your chest so that you can kind of, it's like venting, right? So journaling can be like venting, where you just, I can't believe this is going on. But journaling can also be a problem solving tool where you can look at that and go, okay, so I guess, yeah, so what can I do about this? And kind of work your way and mind map that out through steps that can help you to get through whatever situation that you need to get through.
So one of the things that we are launching is something called Journal Engine, the journal that talks back. And so what that means is that people will have the opportunity to journal and get feedback from someone who is qualified to respond by asking critical questions, by digging deep, by offering feedback, comments, etc. So it's interesting, right? Exactly what you're saying. It's a great problem-solving tool. It's a great tool for expression, and it's a really great tool for helping you to see what it is that you can't currently see. Right? What's hard to see because you're so bogged down in it. Absolutely. You're so buried in it, right?
What I like about that is it actually hits two of the S's, right? It hits the problem solving side for situation, but it also hits the support side. When you've got somebody else who's mirroring back things or getting you to think in a bit of a different way or to explore something a bit different or deeper, that's the support part that we're missing sometimes.
Yes. And interestingly enough, I thought that it addressed the O, which is focus on me. Take some time to really put down how I'm feeling, right?
Absolutely.
So, right? It's just a different approach. What do you say to people when they say, well, I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time for yoga. I don't have time for journaling. I don't have time to take a nap. Like, are you kidding me? You think I'm going to take a nap in the middle of the day? Like, that just doesn't work. I'm busy. I'm a mother. I'm a father. I'm an executive. Like, what do you think?
I
How do
think
you respond?
one of the quotes that I like that puts things in perspective for me is, and it goes, how thin can I spread myself before I no longer exist? And we get so trapped in taking care of others and doing other stuff and being that entrepreneur, being that business owner, and all those things that come with it, that we forget to put energy back into ourselves. If we don't, we're not going to be able to do those other things. And it's unfortunate that some people come to that realization after they've had a heart attack, after they've been diagnosed with, high blood pressure, or after they've been diagnosed with diabetes. And what we want to do is it'd be nice if we could learn in the reverse. There's lots of good things that said, I wish I could, had the energy of a child and the knowledge of an elderly person, right? But to be able to look back and do that earlier on would be such a benefit, to say, I need to take care of myself, because if I can't, I'm not going to be good enough to be able to take care of anybody else.
So again, I want to harp in on this. When someone says, I don't have time to take care of myself, you say, you gotta.
Do you have time to be sick? If you don't have time to be sick, then you've got to find those little micro moments. And they don't need to be long. Doing a deep breathing exercise can be done while you're checking email. There's lots of things that you can buddy up, that you can partner up, that you can do. So you can do, take the stairs. You can park further out in the parking lot. You can watch the kinds of things that you eat. You can look at funny dog and cat videos as a meditation, if that's what you need for a couple of minutes.
I like Ellen. I like to watch Ellen.
Yeah.
Ellen makes me laugh.
Something that makes you laugh is awesome, because it does so many good things for our body.
What do you think about the people who wake up super early to get that extra hour or hour and a half in their day? Do you think they're crazy, like they're giving up critical sleep? Or do you think that is an amazing SOS methodology? What do you think?
I think if you're getting up early and because it's quiet, there's no chaos in the house, it gives you a moment to kind of get your day planned out, get you centered to do your meditation, all of those great things. That's great, as long as you're not putting yourself in a critical zone for not getting enough sleep. So if you're going to bed early enough and you're getting 7 hours as kind of your minimum to stay healthy, perfect. You can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but you're going to have to go to bed at 10 o'clock, right? So figure it out. It doesn't matter what time you get up, but for some people, they like to go into work that 1 hour early because they don't have to, fight traffic, or they don't have to, it's less crowded on the train, or there's nobody at work and they can get things done without interruption. Perfect, but don't sacrifice sleep on the other end for it.
Right. So I want to wrap this up, but I want to ask you one last question. One of your hot subjects, and this is very near and dear to my heart, is the subject of emotional resilience, or just resilience. Yeah. What are the top 3 suggestions you have to build your emotional resilience, or just resilience?
Just resilience in general. So I would say, if I was to look at kind of the top things to be resilient, we already talked about the first one. So sleep is a big issue as far as being able to put your body and your mind in a place where it can heal itself. Connecting to people. So resilience, we know, like I said, is one of the cornerstones. But how do you connect with people at work? Doesn't mean that you have to go out for lunch with them every day, but do you know something about the people that you work with? Can you ask them? Can you rely on them? who's in your support network. Making some time and effort to build that support circle out is really, really important. The third thing I would say is find something that you can do that gives you joy. And whether that's teaching, whether that is playing with grandkids, whether that's going for a walk or reading a good book or watching Ellen, but something that you can just be completely immersed in, and it's for you and you love it. When you can do that, that helps to restore your energy and give you the ability to kind of weather the storms.
Amazing, amazing. So Beverly, how do people find you? If they're looking for a speaker or someone just to help them find a way to increase their personal wellness, how do they find you?
So a couple of things. I go into organizations and work either with leadership teams or employee teams, and you can find out more about those presentations on the website. And then if you are an individual, you can find just articles. There's about 500 or 600 articles there of different techniques, strategies, ideas around health, mental health, resiliency. And so the website is worksmartlivesmart.com.
Wow, that's a good website. Worksmartlivesmart.com. Beverly, thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for talking to me on the plane. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Until we speak again.
Great.